opening statement and open up for questions.
First of all, I want to congratulate Grandpa here. Steve Fink became a grandfather last Friday to Charlotte. Give him a hand there. You age well. You age well. But it's awesome. Really pleased how the offseason's gone to this point. And I think we've made a lot of progress with our players. And from a weight room standpoint, strength and conditioning standpoint, the sprint work's been outstanding. But been very pleased with the work of Paul Jackson and his staff, and our guys have been very receptive. We only have 11 seniors, got a young team, but a talented young team that's continuing to recruit well. The mid-year guys have really blended in extremely well, and I think some of those guys, as we continue to move forward, we're in shorts right now, and you play football in pads, but I think some of those guys are going to contribute for our team as we continue to move into the fall. In the last 2 to 2.5 weeks, we've worked with our staff. By NCAA rules, we're allowed to go over some football stuff with them, and so obviously installing an offense and some changes defensively and on special teams. So I've been pleased with the progress in all three areas to this point. During this time, we spend a lot of time on analytics, quality control. What are the things we need to improve on, which there's obviously, after a disappointing fall, a lot. What are some different trends in football, whether it's in the National Football League, whether it's visiting another staff, other college football teams, studying opponents. That's where we do a lot of this work right now, along with the evaluation of the 21, 22, and 23 classes in recruiting. And so you really go back and look at it after a disappointing fall. 5 areas are really our 5 critical factors in planning to win a game. Turnover margin. We need to improve tremendously. We were +3. We only gave up the ball 14 times, but we had only created 17 turnovers. That's a team stat. We've got to do a better job of creating opportunities for our football team. It's the number 1 stat in ball to be successful. You look at last year, we won the turnover margin in 5 games. We won 4 of them. We tied or lost the turnover margin in 7 games. We lost all 7 games. Explosive play ratio, 10 yards or more run, 20 yards or more pass is how we classify an explosive play. In those situations, you win it in 5 games and you win 4 of those games. You lose it in 7 or tie in 7 games and you lose those 7 games. So the 2 most critical factors, if you want to really just boil down, is turnover margin and explosive play ratio. And that's where we've got to make some tremendous improvements with our team. Field position battle. And a lot of that goes to special teams with your coverage units, your return units, to be able to create short fields for your offense, create long fields for your defense. And in the last 3 years, we're 18-5 in games where we win the field position battle. We're 0-9 when we don't. So that's something, again, we're going back and what do we need to do to improve and get better in those situations. The battle in the red zone, to be efficient in the red zone. We want to score offensively 100% of the time we're down there, and we want to be at 75% touchdowns. You'll lead the league if that's where you are. We were at 48% last year. Critical issues in not being able to score touchdowns in the red zone. Defensively, we want to be able to hold our opponent to 60%, holding them to a field goal. We were right at 52-53% there, which is not bad. It's the best we've been since we've been here, but certainly is improvement. We need to improve from that. And the most disappointing part is just winning the fourth quarter. You take out the Charleston Southern game, we were outscored 100-46 in the fourth quarter. You look at 15-point differential in the North Carolina game. You're leading Florida going into the fourth quarter. You give up 21 points. You only score 7. You're in Knoxville. You've got the momentum going in at halftime and the lead. We were outscored in the fourth quarter at 10, but we were outscored in the second half. For the game, we got shut out in the second half. And then A&M is a 13-3 game in the fourth quarter, and you're outscored 17-3. So far as finishing, discipline, the mental toughness in those situations. We've been a good situational team up to last year. We were 13-5 in one-score games in our first 3 years, which is really good. That means you're making good decisions as coaches, good decisions as players, in critical situations when the game's coming down the line. We were 1-2 in one-score games last year, but we didn't give ourselves the opportunity in a lot of those situations when we should have been in a one-score game at least to have opportunity to win the game. So those are things we've looked at, obviously with a lot of other things, installing an offense and going through that process and then making the changes we think to adapt to our players moving forward in the 2020 season. But pleased with the staff. Always look at staff changes as an opportunity to grow, an opportunity to improve and get better. And I think we have in a lot of areas. Mike's been great. He's come in, will be more under center. There'll be some obviously pass and run concepts that we feel very comfortable with. They'll remain the same. We're still trying to play with some different tempos at the line of scrimmage. We'll continue to do those things. That's one thing that I noticed when Mike went to Colorado State, is adapting what we do to the personnel. And that's what we got to identify for him and his comfort level is, what are we going to be? We don't really know those answers right now. We're going to look at different personnel groupings to find out who our best 11 are, to put them on the field so we can be more productive. And that's what he's committed and we're committed to doing. Joe Cox, you see why Mike was so adamant about having Joe here. Very bright, very intelligent, a really good teacher, does a great job with our players. Really a good evaluator as far as recruiting is concerned, does a nice job on the recruiting front. So I think will be a very valuable member of our staff moving forward. And as we continue to evaluate our staff, looking at things, moving Bobby back to running backs, Wolf obviously is coaching offensive line, and Brian McClendon coaching receivers. You go back to 2018. In the last 15 years at South Carolina, we've averaged over 400 yards 3 times. One of those years was 2018. We averaged 425 yards. We averaged over 30 points a game, which has only happened 6 times in the last 15 years. And we averaged 150 yards rushing, which has only happened 6 times in the last 15 years. So that was a very productive year for us with those guys manning those jobs, and they did it very well. And Mike's been extremely pleased with the staff. Defensively, I've tried to hire Tracy Rocker before and finally was able to do it this time, but a guy that understands how we play. And, we got a certain teaching progression, but he's kind of grown up in our system and understands how we want to coach, whether it's 2-gap, whether it's 1-gap, and how we want to play blocks up front. So it's really good to have him on staff, and his experience for our staff and for our players is huge in the front 7, and has done an outstanding job in everywhere he's been as far as developing players, and that's what it's all about. Rod Wilson, a guy that I'm excited about, former Gamecock, former team captain, Super Bowl champion. I actually interviewed Rod our first year and was extremely impressed with him. And coached one more year at Charleston Southern, and then spent the last 3 years at Kansas City. Had some of the better special teams units in the National Football League, but a lot of experience. I'm working with the linebackers with him right now. We have a certain way we want to vernacular and verbiage and how we teach things. And so he's going through that right now. It has nothing to do with his expertise as coach linebackers. Believe me, he's going to be fine, but we just want to make sure we're on the same page, and he'll take them over after spring ball as we move into the fall. But excited about he's going to help us a lot on special teams, and Kyle Krantz and he are going to work together on special teams, and that his experience and a lot of those things from a fundamental standpoint, but a schematic. Obviously, our rules are a little different from the National Football League in some areas, but to be able to adapt some of the things that he's had success with in the National Football League, I think will be huge for us. Drew Hughes is now our head of recruiting. He and Matt Lindsay kind of came up together as far as where they have been and crossed each other's paths. And I had Drew when I was at the University of Florida, did a fantastic job for me there. So it's been a really seamless transition for us as far as our day-to-day operation in recruiting, evaluation, and how we work, as far as the recruiting standpoint is concerned. So I'm really excited to have Drew back, and I've already kind of hit on Paul. Injury-wise for spring, some guys that will be out for the entire spring. Randricus Davis has a stress fracture. He had a rod put in his leg. He's had a lot of, unfortunate situations as far as injuries, continued to battle through it. He's got a positive attitude as best he could have. So he will be cleared to probably be in some non-contact, 7-on-7, 1-on-1, the latter part of spring practice, but will not be in part of any contact. Colin Hill, who tore his ACL at Colorado State, Mohamed Kaba, who tore his ACL at Clinton High School, both will be out, as well as Spencer Eason-Riddle and Nick Muse with ACL injuries. J.J. Mbari and Dylan Wanham both have a congenital issue with their hip. We knew when we signed Dylan he was going to have surgery on his hip, but we had to shave the bone back in both situations, and they'll miss contact in the spring. And then Tyreek Johnson's had a sublux kneecap, which is very similar to the injury that Trey Smith had. But all of those guys will be fine middle of April, 1st of May, to be ready for the summer program. And other than that, I'll open up for any questions.
Well, kind of a multi-parter. You said Colin Hill is going to be out for the spring. Is Ryan completely healthy from that knee, ready to go?
Had a scope.
And then with Hills, being on the shelf but ready to come back, would you guys want to get a backup decision right now in spring practice, or would that change once Hill is available to come in?
Well, we're going to compete to have the best guy on day one starter to help us win football games and who can be most productive for our football team. And we'll evaluate that as we move through spring and move through the summer and get into fall camp and go from there.
You talked about being pleased with Paul Jackson. Is that those results you can see immediately on the field in the spring, or when would you like to see those results kind of come to?
Well, Colin, I think that we've been able to, just in talking in terms of our staff, is watching our players move around, the explosiveness, the change of direction, some of the speed stuff that's been good, a lot of the competition things that he's brought to our program, which is something we've always had competition. I'm not saying we hadn't done that, but some of the different things that he's brought, I think, have been very, very beneficial to our players, and seeing our guys compete. And I think we've made some improvements in a very short time. And I'm excited to get them on the field and see it carry over on the field. But just in the off-season program, to see some of those things has been very pleasing.
Hey, well, what went into the decision to move to carry on full-time to a wideout?
Well, again, that really decision was made in August in a situation when we named Ryan the backup to Jake and told DeCarron we felt like his best opportunity to help our football team was there, and he was 100% bought in then. Then we had the injury to Jake, and Ryan's now the starter, and we needed DeCarron to spend all of his time at quarterback. It's not a position you can play part-time. So he went in and the unselfish player that he is, dedicated himself there at that time, but knowing when the off-season hit, he would be a full-time receiver.
What would you say is probably the most wide open position going in the spring, or the positions?
They're all wide open.
All right. Any position you have the most questions about where you're looking for guys to step up?
I think that I have questions at a lot of positions. Obviously we've got to replace a guy like Brian Edwards at the receiver position. Shaw's played extremely well his first 3 years, going into his senior year. Excited about that. I hate for Randricus, the injury going into this missing this spring, which is huge for him. We needed him to partake in spring. Football's a developmental sport, and we needed him to be able to take part of that. We need to get Trey Smith back to year one. He caught 30 balls and was a guy that did a really good job for us. I think he's back to that point of being that healthy as he was his first year. Josh Vann needs to step up for us. We need Josh to continue to come on. Xavier Leggett played quarterback his entire career. He's never played receiver in his life, and he starts as a true freshman for us. And Brian did a great job of bringing him along and was a very productive player for us late in the season. And we need Xavier to step up, and excited about DeCarrion's opportunities there. Tyquan Johnson is now starting to look like the guy that we recruited, explosive and fast, and needs to continue to come on. Offensive line, Dillon will not go through the spring, so it gives Ja'Kai Moore, it gives Jalen Nichols, Jazz Turrentine, it gives Vershawn Lee opportunities at the tackle position. We've moved Sedaris Hutchinson to left guard. He certainly can pump out and play tackle, but we would like to remain for him to be inside. We need to find a center, Hank Manos and Vincent Murphy. Eric Douglas can rep inside, Trey Jones. We got to find somebody that's a dependable player. Donnell was a good player for us. At the tight end position, we have a lot of competition. We'll have two more guys in the fall or this summer, and Eric Shaw and Jaheim Bell as freshmen. But Nick Muse will be out, so those guys will get plenty of opportunities. Trey Kenyon needs to step up for us. Keyshawn Toney, both are more than capable guys, will register. So we need to continue to have guys step up at those positions. The young defensive linemen need to continue to grow up. Zach Pickens, Rick Sandage, Kiera Thomas, Jabari Ellis will both be seniors, guys that have played good football for us. And we got to get more guys around that. We're not going to have Tyreek in the spring. We're not going to have JJ in the spring. Aaron Sterling's been a dependable guy for us. Devontae Davis needs to step up. Missed this fall with the Liz Frank injury. Another guy that we need to have respond for us. Joe Anderson was a guy that we redshirted last year. We saw some flashes of some good things, but all those guys need to continue to grow up for us. At linebacker, Sherrod needs to continue to be a dependable player that's consistently playing well all the time. Ernest needs to continue to lead our defense. You know, you lose a guy like Javon Kinlaw and Dennis Warnham and T.J. Brunson, three guys that played a lot of football for us and played well. Damani Staley's made some really nice strides. I've been pleased with his production, and he continues to come on for us. Rosendo Lewis has gotten his weight right and is as best he's been in shape as far as moving around. Just watching him in the all-season program, he's been committed to the nutrition part of it and understanding that part. We need to get better at the safety position. You know, Israel and JC did some good things for us at corner. Cam and John Dixon need to come along. Dominic Hill's a young player that we feel like's moved around well. O'Donnell Fortune, we're going to play at safety. RJ and Jamie Robinson had a fantastic freshman year. Can play safety, can play nickel. Been a very productive player for us. Shiloh Sanders needs to continue to come on for us. Jalen Dickerson's back healthy. So to get those guys back that have played good football for us, Darius Rush, I mean, we need to show those guys to show up and be productive players.
Coming off a freshman year like Ryan did, how important and how much development can happen in this kind of spring where he gets that first starting real experience and then gets this chance to kind of be on the field but also slowed down, I guess? Well,
I think what you said at the end is the most important, is the game for any freshman. The more snaps, the more reps you'll accumulate. I mean, the game continues to slow down for you. And, there'll be some new things that he'll be going through as far as we'll be up under center more. Offensively, there'll be some different things from a verbiage standpoint, communication standpoint that he'll have to adapt to, as well all the quarterbacks. But, again, the more snaps, the more reps you take, the game continues to slow down, and we're looking forward to that.
As you evaluate the quarterbacks this spring and to the fall, what will you look for? What will be the most important traits that you
who can lead our
see?
Football team, be productive, be accurate with the football, take care of the football, score, who's productive. I mean, those things are what we're looking for. I mean, who's going to move our offense and be a productive, help us be a productive offense and win games.
Do you get the sense yet that Mike's criteria in that calculation is different than Dan's was?
No, they're all the same. Be productive and win games.
The RPOs that you implemented before, will you stay with that system as heavy as you did last year, you think? Or
I think we'll see where we go. If obviously you're able to call and run and haul the run and be successful in the run game, you don't need to rely on RPOs as much. Generally that goes back to the guy carrying the ball. How special is he? So we'll see how that develops and as we continue to move forward. But I'll be able to answer that a lot more after spring probably than I can right now.
What value do you and Mike place on mobility at the quarterback position?
Well, I think number one is being accurate with the football. You got to be able to throw the football this day and age. Does legs help? Sure. But you can do some things to help yourself if you don't necessarily have a mobile quarterback. But being accurate with the football, you've got to be able to throw the football this day and age.
Well, where would Jay Urich be spending his time this
Quarterback.
spring? Is the receiver ever going to be an option for him again?
Not this time, but quarterback, we feel like it gives him his best opportunity.
And then you look at another guy that came in with Mike and Adam Prentice. What can he do for this offense?
Well, just watching him and knowing, what he accomplished at Colorado State, a guy that, in our, 21 and 12 packages will be a move guy, fullback type, move guy is what we would call. But obviously he's going to contribute a lot on special teams as well. Has great toughness about him, great leadership about him, a great work ethic. I've been thoroughly impressed with Adam.
When he gets here, what impact are you expecting from Jordan Birch? What are your plans for working him in on the defensive line? Will it be at end or will it be inside? Do you know yet exactly how he'll be worked in?
No, he'll be playing the buck position. My expectation will be for Jordan, just like it's going to be for every freshman that steps on campus in June, work extremely hard, and we'll see where the chips fall. You'll have an opportunity to be a starter. You'll have an opportunity to play. But I tell him the same thing I tell everybody. The best guy's going to start, and if you're good enough, you're going to play. And what you're going to determine that, not me, and how you come in and perform. And so he understands that, and he'll have every opportunity in the world to be successful, just like Alex Huntley, just like Makia Scott, just like Rico Powers, just like every other freshman that we have. Nobody's treated differently.
You mentioned Jamie and Israel. Where do you kind of see those guys fitting, safety, nickel, corner, and kind of how do you balance that?
Well,
over the
Israel's a
spring?
guy that can slide inside and play safety for us and corner. I did for us last year. Jamie can play safety, nickel. We could slide him outside if we had to, but we need John and Cam to come on for us and be more consistent guys. That in a perfect world, that's what we'd like to see. But Jamie's a guy that can play safety in the nickel position and any type of dime. I think now that we will be able to have enough depth where we'll be able to play a dime unit on the field. Yeah, I mean, right now we kind of try and teach everything by concept. So we'll interchange guys. They may get a heavy dose of nickel one day, and the next day they're at safeties primarily. And my biggest thing is just to understand the concept so you can have some guys that are interchangeable, not just put the next guy on the depth chart, but put the next best player in.
Well, when you have some unexpected positions to fill in February, does that take anything away from what you have to do in getting this team ready? And do you expect any kind of a learning curve between the players and maybe some of the new coaches who are here?
Not really. Change is, like I said, I think it's an opportunity for growth. It's an opportunity for improvements, opportunity to get better. And we had a team meeting this morning. I asked Mike Peterson, I said, how many years did you play in the National Football League? That's why first of all, I asked the players, who almost played in the National Football League? Every one of them raised their hand, just like every time. Okay, I said, okay, good. I thought that'd be 100%. All right, Mike Peterson, how many years did you play in the NFL? He said 14. I said, how many position coaches you had? He said 8. Okay. So I said, do you think Mike Peterson, if he was really sensitive about this new coach that came in and didn't like the way he coached me and I didn't like it, do you think he would have survived 14 years? And they all said, no, he probably wouldn't have. I said, no, so you need to be adaptable in what you do in life, and that's true in your job. Your boss changes and all of a sudden somebody else comes in and wants to do things a certain different way. Then you either adapt or you leave, one or the other. So that's kind of the message this morning, was that's part of it. If you want to go play in the NFL, more than likely your position coach is going to change about every 2 years on average. So learn to adapt to it now. You can learn new things from everybody. Are some coaches better teachers, or some better on the field, or some better as far as friendship and developing that? I mean, we're all different. So it's always, how do you adapt to this coach and how in this situation? And it's a way for a young man to get out of his comfort zone a little bit and grow a little bit as a player, in my opinion, and certainly can improve from a different tactic.
Yeah, a couple of things about Brian McClendon. How did that process go with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and what does it mean to have him back?
Well, it's huge to have him back. Brian's done a fantastic job. I look at, the development of Debo Samuel, who's extremely talented. So I'm not taking anything away from Debo. But when we first got here, everybody tells us he's a speed sweep guy. That's what he is. And then when you talk to the San Francisco 49ers, John, they talk about his readiness to play in the National Football League. And then you look at his rookie year and what he accomplished. And I think you have to accredit that to the development of where he was in college. And I think that a lot of that credit goes to Debo. There's no doubt about it. But a lot of that credit goes to Brian. You look at Brian Edwards, who walked out of here statistically as the best receiver in South Carolina history. Now, whether we agree is or not, his name's plastered all over that stadium for what he accomplished here. And his development with 4 years with Coach McClendon, in my opinion, was outstanding. What he did with Ortre Smith as a freshman, what he's done with Shi Smith as he's come in, and some other guys. Xavier Leggett's never played receiver before, and then all of a sudden steps out and starts in the Southeastern Conference and was a very productive player for us. So it was huge to have Brian back. And as far as any other things that are concerned, we're glad he's at South Carolina. A lot of information out there is also misinformation. And in that situation, there was a lot of misinformation. But, guys, we have interest on our coaches every year, and we have coaches on our staff, including Brian, that turned down other opportunities to stay at South Carolina. So, we don't always know exactly what all's happening out there, and I'll leave it at that.
You mentioned Debo and Brian. Do you feel like having Brian McClendon as a full-time wide receiver coach will enable him to have more production at the receiver position, develop more guys now that he doesn't have the offensive coordinator duties on his plate?
Well, there's no question. Anytime you take a lesser responsibility off someone, you obviously can concentrate more on that. But we were, Debo was extremely productive in 2018, and Brian was extremely productive in 2019, with Brian calling the plays. So at the end of the day, he's a good football coach, and I'm glad he's here.
This is a little follow-up on some of the staff change stuff. Do dynamics in the coaching staff change, and what is that like for you guys dealing with sort of staff changes and the number you guys had, or for you guys as coaches has changed just sort of a way of life?
As far as dynamics, what would you define that as?
In terms of just how staff operates, getting used to working with different guys,
Yeah,
that kind of stuff.
Again, that's what I say. I think growth and improvement. You got a chance to grow differently with a coach. Every new coach that we bring in, I learn something from them. As far as what they've done before, I'm always trying to bounce ideas. I was talking to Coach Rocker yesterday about some different things they've done at different places he's been, and how they travel on Fridays, how they handle Saturday, a night game, and we have all those type of discussions just to learn how some different people do things. And we certainly don't have all the answers, but you always are trying to grow and learn from how people do things differently.
How much was Bobby's familiarity with a couple of the guys at running back? How much did that help moving him back to that spot? And how will he and the rest of the offensive staff juggle the 3 scholarship you guys have to, I guess, maybe not necessarily overwork them this spring, but still make sure they get plenty of reps and all that?
Yeah, well, we need to rep them. There's no doubt about it, especially from the standpoint of just youth concern with Muschamp and Deshaun hadn't played a lot of snaps. In those situations, Adam's a guy that can go back there and play in a one-back situation. If we're an 11 personnel grouping, he certainly is more than capable of doing that. So again, I don't know that the familiarity. I mean, Kevin hadn't played a lot. Kevin's a true sophomore, so all of those guys need as many reps as possible. We certainly don't need to overwork anybody, but I don't know the familiarity. We were productive in 2018 at that position. And you look at when Rico went down, Mon Denson came in, and we were all worried about that, and he was a very productive player for us. A.J. Turner played extremely well for us, so we were productive at the position when he was there, and that's what I look at.
And with special teams, between Rod helping out with Kyle and I guess involving the rest of the staff like you guys have done on special teams, how that be structured this spring as you guys kind of
Kyle's is the main presenter of those things because there's a lot of rule differences between punt and kickoff in the National Football League as opposed to college football. So we're still working through those things right now with Rod, and but those two guys will be the spearhead of our special teams coaching staff, and then myself, along with the rest of the assistants, other than Coach Wolford, Coach Rocker, and both coordinators, all have a part of special teams.
And some of the personnel on special teams obviously got to replace Joe and some of the other guys with the field goal operation and return as well. How will
Well, we're working through that right now. I'll know more as we continue through spring about as far as like where we are, as far as who's going to be our short snapper, our long snapper. Who's going to be our holder. I don't know. We've got a lot of names on the board right now. Nobody that I'd call out because I want to see him do it first. We haven't been able to be out there with a ball by NCAA rules. Obviously, got a lot of confidence in Parker coming back. We need to find a kickoff guy as well. And I can't comment on the two specialists because they've not signed a scholarship with us.
Well, you mentioned Marshawn Lloyd. Just as a freshman, how much does it help him being here early, and what do you expect out of him for this first full season?
I always tell guys as far as coming mid-year. I don't know that in my coaching career, and it's obviously been more prevalent since I've been at South Carolina as far as just the numbers of guys that have come mid-year. I don't know that I've ever been in a situation where it was a negative experience. I think it's all positive. I think number one, academically, you get a lot under your belt, and you do so much better in the fall academically because you're learning right now how to balance all the stuff you got going. You're not getting ready for a game, and generally you're getting oriented to the weight room much better. Not that you don't in June, but you do get oriented to the weight room better. Spring practice, we're going to practice today, and then we're going to have film, and we're going to go through the mistakes, and we're going to go through that, and then we're going to walk through it, and then we're also going to lift, so you're continuing to get stronger, and then we're going to practice another day. So the installation process in fall camps, like drinking water out of a fire hose, as opposed to now, it's just kind of dripping water, and you're able to really immerse yourself in what we're doing and how we're doing it, and you've got a day to correct it. You got plenty of time to come and get with your position coach and say, hey, can you go over this again? I'm not really sure about these things. So I just think from that standpoint, it's just a much easier transition in the fall because of what you go through in the spring. And these guys right now are, looking at us like we're crazy, but, they'll eventually, it'll help them. Not to say that a guy that comes in June can't start, play, contribute, whatever. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that, there's no question that it's a benefit for a young man if he wants to come mid-year and get adjusted academically, athletically, socially. I think he'll be fine.
Defensive line lost 3 seniors, but you insert Keir Thomas back into that role. How big can he be for that group and for Tracy?
Keir's a disruptive guy. He's been a guy that gets a lot of vertical penetration. We're going to play to his strengths, but he's been a very productive player for us. It's time for Zach and Rick to step up. I mean, those guys have been here. Jabari has been, I thought played extremely well, especially in the latter part of the season for us. Played both end and tackle, but really has made some strides. Devontae Davis needs to step up. This fall, he'll have some opportunities. Brad Johnson on the edge is a guy that needs to give us some edge presence as far as some pass rushing things are concerned. Aaron Sterling's been a very productive player for us. So JJ will be out, but those guys got to produce for us. Joe Anderson's another guy. Donovan Wart's a walk-on, but have been the guy that's been very impressive at the end of last season and into the off-season program. Yeah.
Well, the offense is the scheme is fluid right now. But when would you like to have kind of a plan as to what that's going to look like? And also with the guys coming back that what are some of the strengths of this offense you think this year?
Well, I think we have to have some strengths in the offensive line, the experience that Jalen and Jakai got. To have a guy like Dylan back as a 3-year starter, to have a guy like Hutch back who's now a 4-year starter. Again, I voiced my concerns about the center position. We need to get some stability there, but we've got some guys that athletically are what you want, that have the power of what you want, that have played good football for us. And, unfortunately, some of their experience last year we're going to benefit from now, and that's a good thing. So, that was something you feel comfortable about going in. Obviously, the snaps that Ryan got is going to help him. An experienced player like Colin, who's been in Coach Bobo's system, is going to help him. We feel like we've got some talent and ability at the running back position. I still think we've got some talent and ability at the receiver position. Nick Muse won't go through spring at tight end. Was a productive player for us last year. So, I think that, as you continue to work through spring, you're going to get a better comfort level, as Coach Bobo will, for what his players can do. It's sometimes when you're in an all-season program, you're in shorts, it's hard to really project and say, I feel really good about this right now. There's some things that we want to be able to do, but we'll be able to determine that a lot more as we move through spring. And when, I think probably, when spring is over, you're able to go back and look at the cut-ups and look at the film and make some decisions. But we're still going to get, a good little influx of some freshmen that come in fall camp and some guys that are injured. I mean, he's still, to me, and you can watch all the film you want, but until it's what you're putting out there as a coordinator, it's hard to project. He's never been with Dylan Walton, who's a good football player. But, okay, where does his comfort levels with Dylan at the right tackle position or the left tackle position or wherever he ends up being? Those are all things to me that, you build that comfort level. So I would probably say middle of training camp, of truly in the run game, the things we feel really good about, in the passing game, the things we feel really good about, probably would be about then.
I apologize if I missed this earlier. I know you said you're going to work with the linebackers in the spring to help out Rod. Are you going to move back to coach the safeties in the fall?
We'll look at that, just kind of see what we need to do as far as those things concerned. Kyle right now, Krantz is helping T-Rob with the secondary, and we'll see how it works through spring, John.
Yeah, what would go into that decision whether you would want to move back in there or not, and what would the advantage be to not having the head coach have to coach a position?
I don't know that there's an advantage or not an advantage. Obviously I've got a lot of other things on my plate that I've got to handle. I think it's all about time management and being able to manage your time to make sure that, I think it's important to be able to be in the special teams meetings and be around the offensive players, which I'm not as much as obviously the defensive players, but I think those are all things that are important. You also always, year-round, 365 days, you've got recruiting going on at all positions on both sides of the ball. But when, a lot of your time is met with truly coaching the position, it does constrain your time a little bit as far as those other things are concerned. You can't ignore the other things. You've got to be able to spend time with those things. So that's just something about time management you've got to be able to manage through. And at the end of the day, we're going to make the best decision for our team.
Speaking of Rod again, Will, what was it his desire to want to coach a position group, a defensive position group, in wanting to come back? Because it seems like Kansas City's got a pretty good thing going right now.
He's a Gamecock. He wanted to be a Gamecock, man. I mean, come on. No, it's one of the things he expressed to me was getting on the defensive side of the ball, and felt like this would be a great opportunity for him. He'd like to be a coordinator and eventually a head coach, and that's what he and I talked about that, and felt like this move would be the best for him, and he's excited about being here. He and his family both.
Going back to what you were saying about the quarterbacks and having to do some more stuff under center with Coach Bo, but how will that learning curve be for those guys, since I don't think many of them did much of that in high school, and I guess Ryan pretty limited with that last year?
Well, I mean, I think that, obviously it is different. The footwork's different. The timing is different. The timing of the routes is different, whether it's a 5-step, a 7-step, a 3-step quick game, whatever the case may be. The play actions off of that are different. But, we feel like moving forward, that's what's going to help our football team. So they've adapted well just in watching them. We hadn't done anything with the ball yet, but just watching the footwork. And Mike's been pleased with those guys' time that they've spent extra here in the building, which at that position you have to. And all of those guys, Luke and Ryan and Colin and Jay, have all spent a lot of time here in the building.
And going back to Jordan Birch, why the buck position? Is it just he's athletically got that kind of fit for it? Is that?
Well, at that position, and you look at Dennis Wanham, a guy that's athletic enough to play in space. Athletic enough to play a hook flat, to play somebody man-to-man. Obviously, his biggest traits can be able to rush the passer and win on the edge in our league. And we feel like that's a different position. You've got to be able to have that combination athletically to do those things. And we feel like he possesses those characteristics.
With Dylan out, how big of an opportunity is this for that trio of Jalen, Ja'Kai, and Justin? And what do you kind of see in that group and sort of the potential those three have?
Well, all three have the size of the position you want, Justin being the biggest of the three. But you watch him in the offseason program, you watch his lower body flexibility, you watch his hips, you watch his change of direction with his feet. He is extremely impressive. Moving around. All three guys are bright. All three guys can learn anything you want them to learn. And there's no question. I mean, just the number of reps you get, the better you're going to be as a football player. And the number of reps you get in live competition and understanding whether it's in the run game or the pass game, there's no question you're going to improve and get better. And we need all three of those guys to improve and get better. And I think all three have the traits we're looking for at the position. You growing a beard? No shave November? What are we doing now? No shave April, May, March, I guess? All right.
I'm not growing a beard. I can't grow one. So.
Me either.
The ACC and Big Ten have kind of adopted or are presenting a rule that would allow a one-time transfer in all sports. I'm curious where you fall on that, and how do you think it would maybe impact the sport?
I think that we're probably heading that direction. But, I think if a head coach leaves, I think that a player should have the ability to transfer. I don't have any problem with that. But I would not be for just a one-time transfer. I've been in this league for 20 years. Tampering will be a nice word for what will happen. So people will be recruiting them off your campus.
How would you evaluate the way Zach Pickens played last year? And is he sort of ready to step into that role for Kinlaw?
Well, again, everybody's their own player. Zach athletically, from a girth standpoint, from an intelligence standpoint, from a work ethic standpoint, has a lot of ability. I always say the closer your position moves to the ball, the harder it is to play as a young player because the game is much faster, it's much bigger, it's much more complex than what you've ever been used to playing in high school. That's just part of it. Javon was nowhere near the player his first year as he was his last year. I mean, not even comparable, and he'll be the first one that'll tell you that. So we expect Zach to continue to take the right steps forward to be the type player we feel like he can be and that he wants to be. And the great thing about Zach is he is a great learner, great worker, unbelievable young man he's a pleaser, and he wants to do everything the right way. And when you have that kind of attitude every day and that kind of work ethic every single day, then that's going to translate to good things when you have the athletic ability that he has. But, really, and I say this, and I know it's a bad word, but, all those guys really need to be redshirted. And we weren't in a situation we could. I mean, I'd love to be coaching Dennis Warren one more year. I'd love to be coaching Kobe Smith one more year. We're just not in that situation, 2-3 years ago and 4 years ago when we had to play these guys as freshmen. Kier Thomas, I'm interested to see his fall. This year's going to be a lot better than any other years he's played here. I remember playing him as a true freshman as a 3 technique. I felt bad as a coach doing it to him. I mean, but that was a situation we're in. And, those guys, we were talking this morning with Coach Rocker about some of the younger guys. I said, some of these guys should be redshirt sophomores right now. And that's a whole different from a junior. So, again, I'm excited about Zach and Rick and the guys we got coming.
With the recruiting calendar and some of the changes that have been made to that recently, how do you feel about this month having been a dead period, which I don't think it's been in the past, and looking ahead to the spring when you guys can start hosting official visitors again? Would it be advantageous for everybody, schools and recruits as well, to be able to allow head coaches to go on the road and visit with guys in home like you guys can do in December and January?
Well, there's been a proposal that'll allow that. I don't know where that is right now. I personally think that the dead period in February is a good idea. It gives you a little downtime with your family. It gives you a little time for relief for the players as well. It opens back up March 1st, which is kind of tough on us because we break for spring break the next week, and our last practice is on March 5th, which we've got kids coming in that first part of the week. But a lot of people will have them that next weekend, which we'll miss obviously because our players won't be on campus. But I think it's been good. As far as the February is concerned, I'd love to be able to go back on the road in the spring. They've talked in terms of a proposal to make January, maybe December and January, a contact period for juniors, in those situations, which I think that would be a good rule. And then going into the spring, making it a contact period as well for juniors and head coaches being able to go back on the road. But what I saw was not to be able to go off campus, to only have contact on campus and not during classes. Good luck.
Yeah. And on the topic of rules and all that, I don't know since you've had a little free time this month, have you been able to watch any of the XFL and seen some of the stuff they're doing, and if there's anything that's caught your eye?
I think the kickoff may be where we're headed. I think it's an interesting concept. It keeps the kickoff in the game, and it eliminates some of the collisions that I think we're trying to get away from. So I think that's a really, really interesting, new rule, I guess you'd say, that I think's maybe something we're headed to.
After kind of the results of last season, are there any core ways you kind of approach spring that you change coming off a season like that, or not really?
I think we evaluate it every year. We make changes every year. Coming off a 9-win season, coming off a 7. I mean, we make changes every year and continue to evaluate, when you have some influx of new staff, you do get some new ideas about different ways to do things. And obviously, Mike being a head coach, I've asked him a lot of questions about some different things that they've done. And it all goes back to fitting what's best for your players and what's going to help us win games. And that's how every decision in our organization's made as far as football is concerned. We've changed the all-season program a little bit. When I interviewed Coach Jackson, I was impressed with some of the things he talked about and how they approach the all-season program, and we've revamped that pretty much completely as far as some things that we had done before. And I've been very pleased with the results. I've been, see how receptive our players have been has been really good. So that's been good. And we've looked at some different things practice-wise that we do, that some different things we think can help our football team. Have a good day.